I'm all in. I don't even care if it fundamentally retcons things or ruins things. I'm just like I'm the fan again. I'm a little 8-year-old going in. I absolutely am so excited for this.
Hello and welcome back to Road to Rebirth. And we are at the final film of the Jurassic World saga, Jurassic World Dominion, which released in 2022. Billed as the conclusion to the Jurassic franchise, Dominion brought together the old and the new. But did it feel like a true ending, or was it more of a pivot point? Today, we're talking about both the theatrical version and also the extended cut, including the stunning prologue and also much-needed breathing room, I think, for the story. To help me unpack all of this, I'm thrilled to be joined by two awesome guests. They have been officially involved with creating some amazing viral marketing campaigns for the Jurassic World movies. They also created and hosted the much missed by me podcast Jurassic Cast, interviewing cast members and also securing one of the first interviews with Colin Trevorrow after he was announced as the director for Jurassic World. Please welcome to the show Jack Ewins and Sam Phillips. Thank you so much for joining me today. How are you both?
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Yeah, no, feeling good.
Good. Sam, coming to you first, I was wondering whether you could give me a bit of background about how you and Jack first got together and started everything.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we're going back a few years now, aren't we? So it's been. I mean, it's been what, like 8-9 years since we even recorded the last podcast, like when we was doing that. But I think the way it came about was I was oblivious to anything Jurassic Park, like in terms of like fan bases and things like that, and online presence. Sort of like going back to the late noughties to around about 2010, 2011. You know, I always thought of myself as a Jurassic Park fan, and I thought I was the only one. You know, so, and then I think it come around about the point of, I know it was the re-release of Jurassic Park in around 2010?
2010, I think. Was it 2011?
It was like the digital remaster. Yeah. Actually, around about that time, just before it came out, I don't know why, I rode my bike to work one day, even though I could drive, and I hit the curb, fell off my bike and broke my elbow. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. And then, so, you know, I was just puttering around doing nothing. And then that film came out and I went and watched it, the digital re-release. And I was like, oh, you know, man, I really miss Jurassic Park. And at that time, I was into like the Kevin Smith podcasts and things like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to record my own podcast about Jurassic Park. And the first episode was just like me just talking all sorts of nonsense. And then I sort of went down this rabbit hole and discovered like there was an online community that was like JP Legacy and all of that back in the day. And I did a few episodes. It was like one every 9 months or something like that. And I think it was like 2 or 3 in. I stumbled across Jack's YouTube channel, or Jack Evans' YouTube channel. That's the ongoing joke, because the whole episode I was calling him Jack Evans. and I think I just reached out to you, didn't I? And I was like, oh, I do this podcast. Would you like to come on it? And
I'd listened to it previously, hadn't I?
Yeah.
Because I looked up, I was going through a bit of a podcast listening phase, and I just looked up to Jurassic Park podcast, and literally the only one I could find outside of like film review podcasts where they would like Jurassic Park 1993 review or whatever, the only one actually just talking about the franchise as a whole as a fan was Sam's one at the time. Now there's like loads, including this one. So it's like, back in the day it was just one.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It was way lower quality than anything you see now as well. It was just me like almost with like a tape recorder and plugging it into like this really old crappy laptop I had. So
it was just you hearing you say that, you know, you thought you were the only Jurassic Park fan. I can remember when I first found the Jurassic Cast podcast, it was on my lunch break, and I did exactly that. I just searched Jurassic in like the app, and it came up with it. And I was like, oh my God, there's a Jurassic Park podcast. I'm like, and they're English. I can't believe I can. Yeah, so that was just my way in. It was just such a. I'd kind of seen the like Dan's JP3 page. I'd sort of read the forums, but I'd never really interacted with anything. But I was, just discovering your podcast was such a great high.
Yeah, I think that like finding that point when I searched out was like the only like the second time ever that I'd searched Jurassic Park online. The first time was, I remember being around a friend's house. This was like 96 when the Jurassic Park, the ride was first opening in Universal Hollywood. And we must have spent like 4 hours just downloading this QuickTime video, which was just like a 10-second edit of the ride. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think for me, and I think those like yourself probably listen to the podcast know that I was not a big fan at all of Jurassic Park 3. So kind of I didn't stop liking the series. It just kind of like it was like Toy Story, when Andy puts Woody on the shelf, it was kind of like that for me. Until sort of like that time when I watched the remaster.
And Jack, how did you go from being a fan of a series to working on them? Like how did that feel at that moment?
It was like a series of moments, really. Well, there wasn't a series of one specific moments. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't one specific moment. It's got a few. It was weird. I remember like because me and Tim were doing the website, the Patel Corp one, which was like based on the leak name and all that. And I'm sure listeners, I hope you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to be a bit vague because the story is quite long, but I don't want to go into it all. And Tim had met me through listening to us on the podcast interviewing Colin. So that's how we'd got Colin on the podcast because we'd done the magical sentence of like, come on and talk about Jurassic, no spoilers. We just want to know why you want this job. And that was it. Like, we don't want to talk about like what you're going to do for the film, but like just why Jurassic. But so we're doing making this Patel website, and it was getting, fans were talking about it, and we just thought, it's a fun little project. But I was working at the Empire Cinema in Leicester Square at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a job there because I wanted a job there, and I eventually got one because that was where all the premieres were. I was anticipating Jurassic Park 4 that had been announced to have its premiere there. Obviously, it never did.
You got that job in 2004.
I'd have been, even if I didn't get the job, like honestly, I'd have been at that cinema like Jesus.
It's a long time planning.
Yeah, I just thought, they always have the premieres there because I'd been to the Prometheus premiere, like on the outside, like I just never been to a movie premiere, and I knew I'm a big Alien fan, so Prometheus was having its premiere there, so I was like, I'll go down there, and that was like crazy, and I thought I need to work in that cinema because if Jurassic Park 4 has its premiere, it's going to be here. Working there and then doing the Patel stuff, I'm sitting there standing at the entrance ripping tickets for people to come in, and my phone buzzes in my pocket, and I look down and I just see this email from this guy called Dylan Bridges, who's Jeff Bridges' nephew. He was head of he's like the head of digital marketing at the time.
Right, okay.
I think he's like way higher up now. I was like, Dylan Bridges, who's that? And it was like an introduction, and then I read it, and then I put it back in my pocket, and I was like, that can't be real. That's got to be someone like messing. Yeah. Someone's found out we've been working on this website, and it's like, right, we'll screw with Jack and Tim, so we'll send them this. And then I kept reading it, and then down at the bottom it had all these like little logos of Universal Amblin and all this sort of stuff, and I was just like, this looks really official. If this is fake, this is a really good fake. But anyway, then I replied, and then he sent me some contact details, and I went back to him, and then I just verified it. I was like, Dylan Bridges, Universal. I found him on, I can't remember, it might have been LinkedIn, but I don't even know if that was around at the time. It was something like that. And I just remember calling my mum after work, just being like, oh my God. Got our foot in the door. I don't know how. He wants to meet. So anyway, yeah, that's where it sort of began. And then obviously when we got deeper into the rabbit hole, we met back up with Colin, and then that recircled back round to him coming on our podcast, and he knew me from that, and it was introduced to Tim, and then obviously when we brought Sam on for the Dinosaur Protection Group for Fallen Kingdom, and it was like, bringing it all full circle. So
amazing. They must have just been scouring the net for all of these people and just trying to put something together for it.
I think it was like it was all Colin.
Okay.
Colin had an eye for the fandom, and obviously, as many fans out there know, he was very much online, like especially on Twitter. And he knew he was, because he's a fan like all of us, but he'd obviously was a film director as well at the same time, but he definitely was a Jurassic, and so he was within the circle. So he knew that getting the deep fans involved to be like help work on the lore and stuff, that was a risk to the studio, but it was all him instrumental in getting us involved and giving us the freedom that we had to do what we did. I know we're jumping ahead to Rebirth, but I do miss some sort of online presence with the director, because it makes all the difference, I think, with fans, and he can just directly talk to him.
It's been very different.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about that now. Like, what is your excitement levels, both of you, for Rebirth now that you're? Because I take it, are you involved in any aspect of this film at all?
Not at this point. No. Like, honestly, when Colin has gone and on to do other things, they've changed in house, and we're still in contact with Universal. Like, we have been talking even up to this year about potential stuff for the future and stuff, but nothing's set in stone. I can't say any more than that.
No.
But like, yeah. So it's like, but in terms of Rebirth's marketing, no, we're not involved with that one. I'll let you go, because I want to talk about Rebirth a little bit, but I'll let you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's different. Jack can back me up on this one. It's been a long time since we have been fans. Been in the fan seat, looking forward to a Jurassic Park film, which, it's sad not being involved, but it's also really exciting as well to be back not knowing anything and just looking forward to it. But yeah, there's lots of things I'm seeing, and I'm like, although I've kind of been out of the loop on a lot of stuff, I'm just dipping in and out, and there's a lot of stuff I'm seeing. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, oh, that looks a little bit funky. But
what's the funky stuff?
I don't really want to be bashing it, but it's just like the like the mutadons and things like that. I'm a bit like, they could be interesting. I don't want to be negative, but a lot of it feels more like that Jurassic Park. Was it the 2000? Was it the Raw Thrills arcade game?
Yeah,
it was more like the movie adaptation of that. So, but hey, I hope it's good. Jack?
I'm going into Rebirth not knowing what's going to happen in a Jurassic film, and that, for me personally, has not happened since I was 12 years old going in to watch Jurassic Park 3. It's so exciting. Like, I tell you, I'm the complete opposite of Sam. I'm all in on this one. In terms of, like, I don't think anything's funky. I'm all in. Yeah. I don't even care if it fundamentally retcons things or ruins things. I'm just like, I'm the fan again. I'm a little 8-year-old going in. I absolutely am so excited for this. I think the mutadons, I mean, they just look like dinosaurs. If they gave it an actual dinosaur name and said it was a dinosaur, no one would know any different. That's my opinion on it. But the Distortus Rex thing, that looks insane. Yeah. And I think the first trailer, I was a little bit like, that design looks naff when it's in like the smoke.
Yeah.
But now they've definitely tweaked it since then. And
there's a lot of tweaking going on between those two trailers, a lot.
Yeah, and I think the final film is going to be tweaked even more so. And as a big Alien fan, there's loads in this film that looks alien coded.
Yep.
Like the design of the scientific research base, the sort of retro futuristic computer consoles, the Distortus Rex itself looks like the Xenomorph. So like, I can't help but like it. I just hope that there is this part of me that's like, when they say in the line in the trailer, which I don't know if it's going to play out like it does in the final film, when they're like, this is the original research facility of the Jurassic Park. That's where I'm like, okay, now you're making me question everything, because I'm like, it can't be for the original Jurassic Park, because that makes no sense, because that was Isla Sorna. That was written by Co-op as well. So, and created.
It could just be a trailer line, really, couldn't it?
I wonder if she's like, this was the original research facility for the Jurassic Park, and then someone's like, no, this was for the new park, and that's it. Like, and as they've like cut that last bit out. I'm looking at like in the second trailer, there's like the lab back in the day, and I know in the Empire article, David Kerb and the article was saying like it's set 17 years before the film set, which would place it in 2010. Somewhere.
Yes, yeah.
However, I'm looking at these computer monitors and stuff, and I'm like, is it 17 years before the park opened, Jurassic World?
Yeah.
Is it meant, or Jurassic Park? Is it like, is that what they mean? Because it's a bit vague, because the computer monitors are really big.
Oh, okay.
Like, they're not flat screen, they're not touch screen, they're all clicky buttons and all this sort of stuff. So
yeah,
this is what I love. Like, I haven't been in this sort of position in a long time, so all the speculation's been fun. Although the trailers are now starting to reveal so much that I've dipped out of social media.
And it's the quandary that I'm getting to now, running this podcast up until the release date, keeping myself active online, but also not wanting to spoil this as the fan, and the reason why I set up this podcast in the first place. It's a fine balance.
Yeah. Are you excited for it, Roland?
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge Gareth Edwards fan. I remember going to see Monsters at the cinema, going there, watching it, and just being like, he made this in his bedroom, sort of thing. This is incredible. And the idea of him and all the stuff that he did with Godzilla, which I love. I remember sitting there and watching Godzilla and thinking, my God, if Jurassic World or whatever Jurassic 4 is going to be like this, I'm really on board. So yeah, I think he's definitely the right eye to bring to it. And I'm imagining that the tweaks that we're seeing, it is down to Gareth and Gareth's input on actually the creature design, wanting to get the special effects bang on and the physics of it all right, to feel that weight. You know, the shot of in the second trailer of the T-Rex entering the water is just...
It's one of my favorite shots from the entire franchise. Like that, as soon as I saw that waddling into the water after the boat, I was just like, oh my God, the visuals of just that alone is just Jurassic through and through. You can't get any more Jurassic than that.
It's just so daunting, isn't it?
It's dread-inducing.
Straight cut from Crichton, so you can't get any more Jurassic than that. It's like, I got a funny little circle back to my job at Empire Cinema. When I was working there, they did the first ever UK screening of Gareth Edwards' Godzilla there.
Oh.
And my boss knew I was a big Jurassic fan because I was asking him, like, are we going to have the premiere? He's like, I'll find out. And then I was like, oh, I like Godzilla as well. Like, are we doing that? And he was like, no. But he's like, but we are holding the first ever UK screening of it for the press to do their reviews, like all the big magazines and everything. He's like, do you want to get in? So I was like, yeah. So I actually went to that at the Empire Cinema.
Oh, amazing.
And I was wearing a Godzilla t-shirt. Everyone else there was in like suits and all. They looked like they were in like, their professional journalist outfits. Yeah. I'm there. Yeah. I definitely stuck out like a sore thumb. I wasn't there with any notepads, nothing, like literally nothing. I just sat
cheering all the way through.
And I watched it and I was like, this film is insanely good. And I was like, my only issue with the film was how dark it was towards the end. And I'm really hoping Gareth Edwards' night scenes in this film are better, and I think because he's shooting on film, it will be. But that was my only complaint.
And that was his second film. I know Godzilla was number 2. Well, like Colin was, that number 2 for him was Jurassic World. Yeah.
It's just I can't wait for Rebirth. Really excited. But yeah, I've ducked out of social media. Can't be dealing with seeing like it's not just seeing spoilers, it's seeing the same visuals over and over and over again, because then you desensitize to it. So like that T-Rex wading into the water, I loved it. I'm trying not to watch it like a lot because I don't want to like see it too much.
I think we said this, didn't we, back in like the Dominion, when they were doing the sort of the same marketing push of like TV spot, like with new stuff every single day. I think I even said to you back then, like, I really feel sorry for the fans who are having a lot of stuff like spoiled for them, and having these like really cool visuals like the excitement of them diluted for them. I think it's hard for fans to kind of turn off, resist trying to watch all that stuff, because even now I'll see like something pop up on Twitter and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I think Fallen Kingdom was the worst for me, which what I like about the 2 trailers that we've had, I can't put the story together really. I've kind of got the idea of dinosaurs and all that sort of like big action moments that are going to happen, but I don't know which point things are going to happen, because my mind, as a film fan or whatever, I'm trying to piece together, just naturally putting story beats together in my head, which for Fallen Kingdom, I think once I'd watched all of the marketing campaign for the trailers and stuff and the little TV spots, I was like, okay, this happens, this and this. And so when I went and sat in the cinema, I was like, I know exactly how this film's going to play out.
I just want to go on record to say that even though we worked on Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom's marketing, we did the viral marketing.
Yeah,
we had nothing to do with the trailers. No. And I even though those trailers are beautifully edited, outside, like if you take it away from spoiling the movie, they're beautifully edited trailers. But it was like, I was biting my fist, like, what are you doing? Everything. You're showing literally everything. And it was like painful. And I really feel like, and the same in some regards for Dominion, I feel like that by showing so much in the trailers, it preempted people to not enjoy the film as much as they obviously otherwise would have. I think that like some opinions were there was no real surprises. And like when it came to any surprises that were left, they're already taken out of it. So not that I'm saying people would actually change their mind, but they would have gone in and had a different experience.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, let's get on to Dominion. And I was wondering, Jack, whether you could give us a synopsis for it.
Yes. 4 years after the destruction of Isla Nublar, BioSyn operatives attempt to track down Maisie Lockwood while Dr. Ellie Sattler investigates a genetically engineered swarm of giant locusts.
Sounds like a great movie.
Is that the IMDb one?
That's the IMDb one. Someone's gone in and changed it so they're not hiding what the film was about.
Wow, incredible. So, Sam, what was your first impression when you sat down and watched Dominion? Where were you? What were the thoughts that went through your head?
Well, Colin invited us, didn't he, to, Pinewood Studios, like a year before the film came out. So this was, June 2021? To go and watch like an early assembly cut, or the first assembly cut it was like a room full of the sound editors and sound engineers and all of that, which was just mind-blowing because we didn't know, did he? He just invited. Like, he sent you an email.
I was chatting to him. I was just chatting to him in emails, and then he was like, I'm showing a screening. Do you want to come? I've got like 6 tickets. Bring some friends. And I was like, all right. So I took a load of you, didn't I?
Yeah, so we went up there and, sitting in the John Barry Theatre at Pinewood Studios and watching like the first cut of Jurassic World Dominion a year before it came out that was the experience we had. So, if you're going to have a great first time watching it, that was the one. Yeah, obviously we had a different experience than most with it. So, that kind of rose tints it for us a little bit, being in that experience. But for us, the version that we watched was pretty much, 95% of what the extended edition is. Wouldn't you agree, Jack? Or
yeah, it didn't have. I think the only real big difference is it didn't have the Cretaceous opening.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, it didn't have that.
It opened directly with the T-Rex attacking walking through the drive-in theater.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. It was a good opening, but I prefer the one with the Cretaceous opening. And then I think the only other difference I can think of, just from memory, we recorded a podcast straight afterwards where we noted our thoughts on it, and I've released it on my YouTube channel, so you can go and listen back to what we thought about the film a year out from release.
Yeah. It's like a time capsule, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's like few little differences. Like there's a shot of, in the final cut, both cuts of the film, there's a shot of Barry giving out earphones to all the characters in Malta, and they're putting them in, whereas that wasn't in there. So one of my notes to Colin after the film was like, you need to have a shot of Barry or someone giving microphones out, because it was really weird, everyone talking to each other, and like, like, how the hell can they hear each other across the island? And he was like, oh, we have that shot, it's about 17 seconds long, I'll put it back in. And there it is. So it's things like that I can remember. But
and some questionable blue screen in the Malta
Right,
they hadn't finished all the effects, had they?
Yeah, as a film in general, it was just like, because up until that point we had only had like, I think Colin had relayed the story to you back in like 2018, wasn't it? Just after Fallen Kingdom, Jack, and
it was like 3 or 4 months after Fallen Kingdom was released. He invited me to Pinewood to chat with him about what we're going to do next, and then he literally sat there and just told me the entire plot of Dominion, and it was pretty much word for word exactly what we see in the final film before he'd even written it on script. Like that is his film, regardless of what people think of it. Like he had that vision and wanted to make it.
I've still got my notes, and there's something I don't know if you brought this up before, like the end battle basically with the Giganotosaurus, the T-Rex, and all of that. I think in the original, like back then, he mentioned that he might just even have like the Spinosaurus come out at some point as well. So,
well, he did word it. This is from memory, bear in mind. He worded it as in like, he was talking about all the fans on YouTube who keep making battle arenas on Jurassic World Evolution. Like they make like Gaming Beaver and stuff, make these huge circular bases with all the paddocks open up inside, and just a plethora of dinosaurs just going at it in the middle. He was like, I kind of want that to be the ending.
Okay.
Like they're all in these holding paddocks in this massive ring, and something happens where all the gates open, and there's just the characters are just stuck in the middle of this absolute
carnage
mess of dinosaurs. Carnage. Obviously, he probably pitched that, and they went, yeah, we're going to need to dial it back. So you've got the ring, you got the BioSyn ring, you've got all the dinosaurs like pretty much in there, and then some of them are like, as far as I could tell in the film, because that's one of my big contentions with Dominion, is how messy the setup is where the dinosaurs are at the end. But like, I think some of them are leaving, and then you've got the T-Rex, Giga, and Therizinosaurus are the ones battling it out. And a Dreadnoughts is walking past and stuff like that. But yeah, he was debating having the Spino there and God knows what else.
I don't know. I saw it 3 times in the cinema, I think, with various different people. For me, it was the return of Alan Grant, Ellie Sattler, Ian Malcolm, getting all of those back together on the screen. You know, I was just so desperate to see Alan Grant again. I thought, I'm never going to see him again. But yeah, so that was amazing. And then when I finally saw the extended cut, I was like, this film makes so much more sense. And I feel like there's a lot more that you could still put in. Feels like it should be 2 films. Do you know whether it was ever going to be 2 pre-COVID?
I know when Colin was telling me the story, like just word of mouth way back in 2018, he asked me my thoughts on, you know, what do you think about the ideas of it being like a 2-parter? Because he was laying it out. He's like, it's a big story.
Yeah.
I said, and don't shoot me, I said, I don't like 2-parters because the first part always feels redundant because you're just trying to get to the second half. I was like, I'd rather a story have a start, middle, and end.
Yeah.
I'd rather a 3-hour film that has a start, middle, and end
that
I can watch in one go than a 4-hour extravaganza across 2 movies. I was like, plus I think I debated with him, not debated as in like we were going against him, like talking about where would the cutoff be? Like, where's the point where you end the film? Where's the big climax at the end of part 1? If you're setting up all this other stuff. So yeah, so I don't know if I personally had that effect on it, but I definitely gave my opinion that I prefer one movie. And I do. I prefer Dominion as one film. However, saying that, I've done a fan edit of Dominion where I split it into 2 films. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No, I haven't heard of this, no.
So I was watching the film one day and I was like, I wonder if you could make 2 films of this by splitting Alan and Ellie's story and Owen and Claire's. Like,
okay. Yeah. Funnily enough, I was watching it for this podcast. I was just like, what would happen if you took out like literally just split?
I've done it. If you want to have a copy of
amazing.
it, I've got 2 versions of the film. One's called Jurassic World Dominion first iteration, and then Jurassic World Dominion second iteration. And I think the first one's with Alan and Ellie and Maisie, I think. And then you see a bit of Maisie's story. And then the second one's with Owen and Claire and Maisie, obviously. But both films then, when they both meet up at that one point, when they get, when all the characters meet, that's when the films are exactly the same. So they both do this. But yes, as someone who's like, I don't like 2 movies, I literally made it into 2 movies.
I get what you mean. I do like stories to have a beginning, middle, and end, and if you can tell it in one, that's definitely what it is. I just think with the story that we get, that Colin's trying to get across to us, I think particularly around Owen and Maisie's story, a lot of the time the film I just want it to stop for a moment and just linger on some silence between characters, and because there's some big heavy stuff going on between Maisie, and it just doesn't give itself enough time, I think, to really bed those ideas so we get that really strong connection. I think the Ellie and Alan and Ian, to a lesser extent, but at least Ellie and Alan, I think because we've got the Jurassic Park knowledge with us when we're watching it, I think it's easier just to slot into their story a bit quicker. Whereas the moment around the campfire just feels like a really nice moment for the film, and it's over in about like 3 minutes or less than that.
I know what you mean. There needs to be like an extra scene because their plot is about Maisie finding out who she is, and Owen and Claire dealing with trying to be parents.
I want a scene like more with Owen and Claire maybe talking. Like, it doesn't have to be much, but just a scene between them.
I swear they must have shot stuff in that log cabin, like extra scenes.
Yeah.
I think when I first watched it, I related more to the Owen, Claire, and Maisie storyline to the Alan and Ellie storyline. Like, I was drawn more to that side of the film, to Jack's first iteration, than the other side. Not that I disliked the Alan and Ellie storyline, but it was just I was more invested at that point in Owen and Claire's storyline.
What made me laugh was like I'm the same with you, Sam, but that's because I'm a new parent. So it's like I was.
That's where I was.
That's you got a personal input in that. But I remember going into Dominion before that came out in the fan circles. Everyone was talking about how you hear the usual thing like, oh, Owen's just Star-Lord, no one takes it seriously, like the older characters have this more gravitas and yada 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 yada. And then you watch Dominion and it's the complete opposite. Like Owen and Claire's story is way more subdued and serious in their tone and the way they talk to each other. And then Alan, Ellie, and Ian are all like quippy and like laughing and joking and stuff like that. And then when you think about it, and my opinion on that is that makes complete sense, because it's how far from the trauma are you? Owen and Claire are literally living in isolation with this girl they've essentially kidnapped.
Yeah.
And they're trying to work out what to do with her. And it's a really weird situation. And obviously Claire's wanted for, her involvement with the Dinosaur Protection Group and all that sort of stuff. Ellie, Ian, and Alan are so far removed from 2001 and their last involvement with this stuff that they've sort of come to terms with their trauma, and they're a little bit more like, as Ian is, he's just like, oh, it's the end times, whatever, we've squandered our time. It's like he's.
I love the fact that Ian Malcolm is the in-house philosopher for BioSyn. He's quite slimy in Jurassic Park. He just says whatever, he pitches his piece. Doesn't care that anybody doesn't listen to him. He just, nobody's listening to me. I'm just going to moan and tell you that you're all wrong and I'm right all the time. That's what he does in the books. And it feels like he's just come to terms with that fact in Dominion. He's this, as Rome burns, he's enjoying his best life. And I think Jeff Goldblum had amazing time. I think the three of them improvised a lot of their stuff.
They also had the history of the character in their minds, so they're in those characters. I'm currently listening to the Lost World audiobook, the Crichton book, in prep for Rebirth, because I'm trying to get in Coop's head. Like when I go into Rebirth, I'm like, what has Coop got from these books that he's going to try and adapt? Anyway, interesting point. There's a whole bit about Malcolm in that book, how he was an in-house, I can't remember what they called him now, in-house person for InGen.
Okay.
So like he worked extensively for InGen for a long time, and I'm like, that's where Colin got the BioSyn stuff from. Like that is genuinely the way they word it in the book. I can't remember exactly how it's worded, but I was listening to it. I was like, yep, that's where Colin got the whole idea of him working for BioSyn from. It's like laid out right there. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I actually rereading the books this year, I was amazed about how much like Colin and Emily took from the books. Like I was just had a little pen just marking down. I was just like, oh, this is Jurassic World Dominion, and it feels like Malcolm's speech and all of that feels lifted right from some bits in Lost World, particularly that lecture he gives at the start of the book. It
is lines directly taken from.
I was thinking that Claire is kind of the most developed character, I think, across the three films. If you're looking at somebody who really goes on a journey, do you think that's true?
I do. There is one bugbear though that I have with Dominion and Claire, which it irritates me every time I watch the film, because I'm like, it was so close to grasping complete greatness, whereas like, actually no, I might take that back. Actually, I think I'm remembering a conversation I had with myself in my head, and so okay, what I'm trying to say is there's a bit, the plane has been attacked by the Quetzalcoatl Atlas, and Owen turns to Claire and he looks at her and he realizes she's got to be the one to go save Maisie. So he goes up and he's like, you're the one who's got to go get her. I love you. I'll see you again. And he just lets her go. And she goes off into the wilderness, and he's then, obviously she thinks he dies in a plane crash. It always bugged me ever since my wife pointed this out. And then ever since she mentioned it, I was like, why did you have to say that? She was like, Claire and Owen find Maisie. It's not. Oh yeah. Claire finds, like, it feels like it should be Claire finds Maisie.
Yeah.
And she's like, I've done it. And then Owen comes up. I feel like what Colin was actually trying to go for was that no, you can't split them up.
Yeah.
Because even though they're like, no, you go rescue, no, you go, like, all this sort of stuff. It's like, no, she has to see you both there together to trust you. So that's why when Maisie sees them after the car accident, she's like, my parents. She doesn't say Owen and Claire, she says my parents. And that's, I feel like, had it been one of them, it wouldn't have the narrative point that I think Colin was going for. So I've kind of just turned myself around on that. I was about to be like, Claire should have found Maisie.
But it's interesting. But it is interesting at the start, because that campfire sequence, Maisie seems to react to Owen in a better way than she does to Claire. So it feels like they've got more of a relationship to build upon, to actually get started. Maisie and Claire, they need to work a bit better with each other. Whereas when Owen turns up, they're just like, oh yeah, they high five each other and they're whittling outside.
Well, there is an underlining thing with Owen and Maisie where Owen doesn't trust her.
Yeah.
Because he's like, don't go past the bridge. He has that argument with her around the campfire and she storms off. And then when she's like with Beta and she's giving him the bread, he comes up with Blue and he's like, Maisie, get back in the house. She's like, I'll come with you. And he goes, what did I just say? And she storms off and that's what gets her kidnapped. I think it's the moment when they're going to rescue Beta together and she steps forward and does the whole thing. And then Owen gives Grant a look of like, okay, she's doing this. And then they do the trifecta with Beta. I feel like that moment narratively is really important for the whole story because visually it's like a callback to obviously, visually you're looking at it, it's Owen with the 3 raptors around him and he's putting his hands up from Jurassic World. This is the complete opposite. You got 3 large humans and 1 tiny raptor. So it's like visually it's the mirror image. But also you've got Alan Grant there witnessing for the first time this sort of raptor behavior, human relationship, which he has not seen since communicating with him with his whistle. But it's like obviously putting Alan Grant in a situation with a raptor. It's a young raptor, so it's still dangerous, but it's not like he's confronting an adult raptor. So Grant's a little bit more relaxed. He's dishing out his they go for the fruit, blah blah blah, blah. And then Beta obviously goes for Alan. So it's set up earlier that they know when you're scared, kind of thing. It's like Owen and Maisie have that exchange of dialogue about they can tell when you're scared. And obviously Alan Grant being his history with raptors is the first time, even as a young one. That's why Beta goes for him. But then you've got the whole Maisie Owen relationship is coming to a close there. Okay. Like they're trusting each other because Owen is like, Maisie, you've got him, like we're going to triangulate. So I just think there's loads going on in that moment that really ties a lot of things together over the legacy of Jurassic, but most people might not spot it. No. They might not think about it. They'll just see like the hand thing and be like, no. And that's it.
It's probably a film that I will watch least compared to the other 2, Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom. Actually, my opinion of Fallen Kingdom was quite low when I first saw it, but actually it's the film that I've now probably enjoyed the most out of those 3, just because of the big swings that it takes. And the more I watch it, the more I can see exactly what Bayona and all of them were doing with that film, and it's very clever. And as a horror film fan as well, I just love the look of it.
Classic horror.
And just the fact that it's somebody just playing in a sandbox and just doing stuff that you wouldn't expect. I can sit down and watch that film and just enjoy it as a film. Doesn't need to really be associated with Jurassic Park or anything. It's just a fun, really good, like suspenseful film, I think.
Dominion is the only one, if you watch it, it wouldn't make much sense unless you've watched the others. I think Jurassic Park 3 has the San Diego line and the name drop of sauna in Fallen Kingdom are the only 2 things that would make, if you didn't know anything, you'd be like, the hell are they talking about? What was that?
Yeah.
But no, what's the San Diego incident? What's Alan Grant talking about? But like their stories actually make sense in a vacuum. You just take them out. You can watch it from start, middle, and end, and it'll make sense. Dominion gets a little bit lost in the weeds when they start talking about the first generation came from sauna and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the can, Dodson grabbing the can. Like what's the point in that? Why do they keep showing that stupid?
You also got like 8 characters with no real background story as well. So you're just like, who are these people? If you're like going in for the first time.
And Sam, what do you think about the new characters that Dominion brings in? Like Ramsey and Kayla. There's quite a new people that we've got to get on board with quite quickly and trust quite quickly as well.
Yeah, I think they the way they were handled and introduced was they felt very Jurassic, and they felt, I say very Jurassic, they felt very Jurassic World, and they slotted into their respective parts in the story quite well. I don't feel like there was too many parts for them shoehorned in. I think I maybe had 1 or 2 issues with some of the characters earlier on, but after that, I thought, after watching it for like the second time, I was a little bit more, welcoming of them. I think it was more to counterbalance the returning characters as well, isn't it? It's like we can't just have like a complete cast of reunions. We've got to bring some new blood in as well. And at that point, I know, this was the end of the saga, but there also, was potential for taking stories forward with like spin-offs and whatnot. So, you did kind of, there was probably a bit of studio play in that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy Kayla. She's probably my favourite of the new characters. She does a pretty good job, I think, of slotting into that group and actually being an entertaining presence on the screen.
Yeah, she did. She felt like she could have been a character in like Indiana Jones or something, like a sidekick.
Star Wars. She's Han Solo.
yeah.
She literally is. She's got the rugged ship.
Yeah.
She gets met at at Tatooine.
Yeah.
Scum and villainy in Malta.
Yeah.
She even has when they start the blooming plane up, it has the Millennium Falcon sound. It goes,
nice.
That noise. Yeah. When you start watching Dominion through the lens of Star Wars, you'll start to see how Colin was giving his 2 middle fingers up to Disney for what happened with him.
I remember thinking when that whole thing kicked off, and I thought he's going to channel so much of like raw energy and up you mentality.
Kind of like you have all the classic hero characters, Alan, Ellie, and Ian, all survive. None of them die, and they all meet. And they have that glorious shot of all of them together. Whereas the new Star Wars films, they killed Luke, they killed Han, they killed Leia, and they all had separate films. None of them got back together. So it was like him being like, "Nah, you screwed up." We even
got our own Mos Eisley with the with the black market.
I love all that stuff, the black market stuff.
I have a question though. Would you guys consider Dodson a new character, even though he had his cameo in Dominion? Because I wouldn't, I wouldn't, in the sense that like I actually think Campbell Scott played him very well, to the point where if you go back and watch Jurassic Park and look at the mannerisms between the original actor and Campbell Scott's version, like they actually are very similar, like the way they're awkwardly talking and stuff. But obviously he is like introduced in a major way in Dominion.
Yeah.
Because I think if we were to consider him a new character, I would say he's my new favorite, because he's such a slime ball. And I've got a lot to say about Dodson as a character.
I'm interested to think about why Ellie and Alan are so down on BioSyn and Dodson. There isn't the overt connection early up front that he's the person that sent Nedry. I'm just thinking for a general person sitting down and watching this film, building him up as this big bad that's almost been playing behind the scenes of all of this. Like, is it because he feels more like a Steve Jobs or like Tim Cook?
He literally is Tim Cook.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I don't know what Colin was trying to say with that, but
no, I know. It's so you meant to be like really hating on him just because of the way he is in that opening. Now this,
I think obviously if we know who he is, yeah. I don't know if you've watched my latest YouTube video on Dominion, where I go into how he's a hollow dragon.
Okay.
I go into like the visual symbolism of Dodson and the Giganotosaurus. They're both connected. They're both hollow dragons. But like Dodson is, I'm glad they never had a scene where Alan and Ellie are like, "You were the one who sent."
Yes.
Yeah. Like, it'd be too on the nose. I like that, if knowing what we know as an audience, when Alan and Ellie meet Dodson in the ring of the BioSyn headquarters, you see how awkward he is.
Yeah.
It's like, we know why he's acting awkward, because he's nervous as hell, because he realized who these people are, and now they're in his house, and it's like and that's why he's like, you want one of my bars, and it's like he's acting really skittish, and
I think that's the first crack that we see, is when he asks Ramsey, "Have you got one of my bars?" And it's he's building him up before that as being like, oh, he's this amazing guy, he's so handsome and he's so smart and he's just like me. And then he goes, have you got any food for me? And he treats him just like a servant. And he immediately, the dynamic has shifted. We can see exactly what their relationship really is. It's not about Ramsey being the same as him at all. It's not in Dodgson's eyes. He's somebody who's a lackey, and I can get him to do what I want. And I do like Campbell Scott as Dodgson. I think he is, particularly that first scene that you get to see him in the complex, feels very method. I don't know whether he is a method actor or whether but he feels like he's really going deep on that character.
If you watch, there's an interview with Campbell Scott where he's like talking about Dodgson and the role, and he talks about going into the book and reading the book and going into it and stuff. Like, he definitely understood where Crichton was going with the character and how sort of slimy he is. Because, like, obviously everyone, because it's so visceral, everyone knows Eli Mills is Book Dodgson in terms of, like, he literally murders an old man in his bed. Like, he's horrible. Dodgson tries to murder all of the main cast in Dominion. He tries to have Owen and Claire killed in Malta. He turns off it gets them to turn off the ADS. So the Ketz tries to kill him. He stops the train, Hyperloop train. So Alan and Ellie go into the tunnels where he knows people have died because there's a skull in there. Like, he's like, he actively tries to kill all the main cast. So he's an attempted murderer, and obviously the skull in the cave lets us believe that there's stuff been going on here. And obviously we know our history with him and Nedry. But the irony is that he's the only one who dies in BioSyn. Obviously most Jurassic films, everything goes to pot and there's like carnage everywhere and people are dying. But in Jurassic World Dominion, I think it's a narrative point that, like, Dodgson does all this stuff, tries to get people killed, but he's ironically the only one who bites the dust. It's like, for all his effort. So he's his own undoing.
Sam, what maybe is your favorite dinosaur moment or action sequence that we get in Dominion?
I think it's definitely the Therizinosaurus moment with Claire, and that was heartbreaking to see in the same way, like as I was describing earlier with some of the Rebirth marketing and TV spots, is that they revealed that scene, because I think at the point we watched it, we wasn't even aware of anything like that in the film. So seeing that,
of course,
out of the blue, it was just like mind blowing, and it was almost like that. It felt like the score was sort of like the thing, wasn't it? Like the like Jaws-y, the thing sort of thing, and just it was just so intense watching it. And I was just like, I love. As with you, I'm a massive horror fan. Yeah, that's a big element of why I love Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. But that scene was just. I was a kid in a candy shop with that whole scene, and it was just so great. But yeah, for me, to answer your question, that scene from start to finish.
I think Giacchino for me is the MVP of the film. Just amazing, and you can feel that this is potentially for him the last one that he's going to do, and he's been working on Jurassic, since the Lost World PlayStation game. And he just goes hell for leather and takes all of the. I think his scores for Jurassic World are really good, and he reuses them in such fun, inventive ways. It kind of gives those scenes, particularly with, I was thinking, the cowboy, with the with the Parasaurolophus and the guitar, the Western guitar. I feel like it makes that scene even more fun because of it. I think if it had been too serious, the theme or the music underlying it, then it might have teetered into ridiculousness. But I think he saves it with taking that music and just applying it again. It
would have been interesting to see it with no score, like the original T-Rex breakout. Just from that perspective, just quiet,
just the sounds of the jungle. Jack, what's your takeaway kind of dinosaur or action scene?
Probably that entire Malta sequence. Because that was quintessentially the newest this film had to offer. Because you were talking about your love of Fallen Kingdom and what that did for the franchise. Because I've always had this debate in my head since seeing the two films, which Jurassic film was the more ambitious one out of the two. I think Dominion takes it for me because obviously half of Fallen Kingdom is like on an island. So it's very similar territory, but it's ambitious when it goes off island to a haunted house. So, but Dominion is, I think, ambitious throughout, especially with its plot involving these locusts and then obviously having dinosaurs global and black markets and all that sort of stuff. It's like, I'm not saying it's like perfect, but it took some very big swings. The Malta sequence, I think that's the equivalent of like the main road attack sequence from the first film. It's like these your big 20-minute long action sequence.
Happens roughly about the same time, I think, as well. Kind
about
of
an hour into the film. And it just blew me away. And I think, again, narratively, it's like the visuals of Owen being chased by the raptors this time and not being with them, and obviously what that means for his character and us as an audience following him since Jurassic World. I think it was so fun. And I really like that. I think it's in one of the extras they talk about how it might have been Colin actually saying he wanted to set it in Malta because it's very ancient looking. So you have these very ancient looking creatures alongside this ancient looking human.
They're all a nice color palette. The actual dinosaurs match the surroundings, all of them, particularly when they're out in the street.
And I think they could have really dropped the ball with it in terms of its ridiculousness, but I think they nailed it.
And again, I think that's down to the score as well, because the score is just, I mean, that was in my head the second that scene had finished. You know, I could hum that coming out the cinema.
The plane, the cycle.
Yeah.
That track. Everyone talks about that track because that is the one. Yeah, that's where you just get your head bobbing. You're like, this is great. Yeah. So that, and then I would say one of the other the dinosaur moments I really, really appreciate in the film is the T-Rex Giga meeting for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh well, second time technically if you count the Cretaceous cut, but just stealing the deer.
Yeah.
Just takes the deer. They have that little scrap and walk off, and it's just so natural. And
and
I just one thing I wish Dominion had more of was like when they're traveling through BioSyn Valley, just seeing some more herbivores and stuff, just some more dinosaur behaviors out and about.
That's the kind of stuff that I think I wanted a bit more of. I wanted that bigger view. We're moving to so many different locations, but rarely do we get big wide shots, or when we get to a new space we get traveling shots of helicopters and things, but we immediately are back into the action. We're in tight shots on characters and they're in a new location, whereas we don't get a chance to like take a step back and go, wow, where have we come from? Jurassic Park, we're just on a tiny island, to now that they're just ubiquitous, they're in everybody's lives. And I would have liked a little bit, we got the phone footage at the start when the now this kind of thing, which is meant there to build that story in, but I wanted shots a bit more like the apatosaur scene when it gets out of the snow. I think that's a really good scene for me. And again, no dialogue, hardly any music.
There is a 6-minute long YouTube video you can check out that was edited by yours truly. It covers all that sort of stuff. COVID, I'll curse COVID till the end of the days, because had that not happened, those clips probably would have been in the film.
It's
like, come on. No, I'm with you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was your favourite scene, Ryan?
What's my favourite? Yeah, I think it is the apatosaur scene, actually. Just that, it's very different. Again, no real dialogue needed in that moment. It's all show, don't tell. You get the flare on the back of the truck. It's a nice breathing moment. You can see Maisie interacting with the people, and it was really great. I remember watching that in the cinema and thinking, this feels right. This feels like a good Jurassic moment. And again, it's just animals doing what animals do, which is what I love about Jurassic as well.
Do you want to know an interesting detail from that scene that I picked up on my last watch?
Yeah, go on.
In that moment, no one has their phone cameras out. So all the humans are looking at this giant dinosaur, which normally you'd be like, oh my God, look at this. Colin, they've obviously made the decision to have everyone. No one's got their phones out in the way, kind of thing. It's like a way of cementing visually with no words, as you said, that, obviously in real life, people would still be like, oh my God, like thing, but.
Yeah. I mean, I literally went to London Zoo the other day and you couldn't move. And everybody's seen a penguin for years.
Like, for the narrative purpose, it's like, it doesn't make sense in a reality, but no one has their phones out. As far as I could tell, I was looking, I was like, don't see anyone.
And then that's the contrast to Jurassic World, where we first see the T-Rex, and we miss the T-Rex, eating the goat because of all the mobile phones. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think the Giganotosaurus is kind of worthy of the big bad of this film in terms of the dinosaurs?
I'll let you go first, Sam, because I could talk the hind legs off a horse about this. That's why I was holding off, because I was like, oh, Jack's going to have an answer for this. I mean, it's definitely different to what we've seen previously. It's big, it's slow, and it's menacing, but it's not like the Indominus, it's not like the Indoraptor and things like that. It was a nice change of pace for the big bad of the movie, but to me it wasn't. It I really don't know. I'm sitting there, I'm thinking of it, and I'm like, I know Jack's bursting to say to get his point across, so maybe I'll let you go.
on the surface, yeah, the Giganotosaurus is a bit of a dud. It's like, okay, it doesn't eat anyone. It doesn't really do anything unique at all. It's just there. We've been told it's going to be this thing, but it turned out to be another thing, and it's just like, what is it? What's the point?
Yeah,
I like to dig really deep, and maybe I make stuff up. I don't know, but when I was doing research for my previous video about how they're hollow dragons, I think I've unearthed something to do with the Giga. I think the whole narrative point of the Giga is that it's sort of like an anti-Indominus.
right.
It's like the Indominus was hyper intelligent, super fast, killed loads of people, all this and the other. The Giganotosaurus is just this sort of slow lumbering animal, which doesn't come across as particularly smart. It guards the dominion of BioSyn, right?
Right, yeah.
And what is BioSyn? So you have to go into the question, what is BioSyn? Well, BioSyn's a company that has built itself up by stealing other people's work. Ramsey mentions it. The first generation came from Sauna, so not their own dinosaurs. We know he stole the embryos from the can because we see he has the can. In the extended version of the film, there's that whole scene where Dodson even says, I've got all this decades of stuff I've collected. So you're like, okay, so nothing here, for all its grandeur.
Essentially, the Ian Malcolm line, in Jurassic Park, you just stood on the shoulders of people who did it before.
Exactly, and it's hollow. It's literally hollow. And so I equate the Giganotosaurus to a dragon sitting on a pile of gold. And obviously we know in Dominion, as they said, they're sat on amber. The amber mines are underneath BioSyn. So it's like amber's like the gold that the Giganotosaurus is sleeping on. But a lot of iconography to do with dragons is they sleep on massive piles of gold. The first time we see the Giga outside of the Cretaceous scene, or even in the Cretaceous scene, it's sleeping. Like the first time you see it, it's just sleeping. That's all it's doing. And like Dodson himself, it's like the Giga is all bark, like all gusto, like got all this sort of stuff, but really nothing to it. And it's I think that's the narrative point of it. It's meant to be like this: I'm the big bad, I'm here. And then it's like, no, you're a false king. You're not the real deal. You're fake, and that's why then the T-Rex can overthrow it with the Therizinosaurus's help, which Colin had previously done in Jurassic World with the T-Rex fighting the Indominus.
Yeah,
the Moser is the thing that takes it out. So I find it interesting that in both of Colin's movies, he's had the actual really cool new creature be the thing that actually kills the big bad. So Jurassic World, obviously, it has the T-Rex and Raptor working together to take down this T-Rex Raptor hybrid. So the unnatural versus the two natural.
Yeah.
I'm doing air quotes, by the way, for listeners. The natural dinosaurs taken out, but it's actually the Mosasaurus which comes and finally takes it down. It's like, it's actually, that's the new thing that isn't, old. Or nostalgia bait. It's the new thing that actually takes it out. And the same goes for Jurassic World Dominion. It's the Therizinosaurus that takes out the Giga.
And that thing must have been terrified. Like it's blind. It didn't know it had a huge Giga on its hands. It's like, what the hell are you doing to me?
Yeah, it's like, ah. But I think, the Giga, I like it. I really like it. Because they even have it breathe fire. Like that's what got me thinking about it. I was like, why do they have it breathing fire? It's really weird. Okay. And then I sort of went down this rabbit hole in my head, and I think, and I've laid this all out in my latest video, I genuinely think I've unearthed that what Colin was going for with it. It's this, all hollow dragon.
I think you need to do like an audio commentary track for Dominion.
I have done, but this was before I came across all this sort of stuff.
Nice, yeah. I want the ability to pause it and then you pop up and say those things.
I love this sort of stuff. It's like in Fallen Kingdom, I did a whole video about the set decoration, like the rooms in all Lockwood's houses. Every room you see the characters in, the wallpaper actually matches their character motivations. Obviously, if you didn't have the trailers, you wouldn't have had it spoiled. But like, you go into Mills's office when he's like recruiting Claire, and like it has all these like hexagonal black and white patterns all on the wall, and they look like scales of a snake. And obviously he's going to betray him. He's a snake. He's literally the snake, going, Eve, have this apple, kind of thing. And it's like, he's the embodiment of a snake. The scales also look like the Endoraptor scales. And he's also two-faced. He's like, shows his happy side to everyone. And then he's evil. Like there's this one shot where he's like he's on the phone to Wheatley, and Maisie comes and he goes, "Not now!" like that. And he like yells at her, and then he goes, "Sorry, Maisie," and it's like that's literally the white and black on the room that's around him. Like the set decoration is telling the audience this is who he is, even though obviously if you think about the lore, that's technically Lockwood's office, but you never see Lockwood in it. You only see Mills in it. Lockwood has like a fountain with two birds that are like identical to each other. So there's like Maisie and Charlotte, and they're sprouting out life and all that. And then in Maisie's room, she has loads of caged birds and butterflies and stuff on her wallpaper. And it's like the set decoration is informing you what is going on with the characters. So I notice this kind of thing, and then I just go on these massive like rabbit holes. But the thing is, I could be talking out my ass sometimes. So like I'll be the first to admit it. If someone goes no and prove it wrong, I'm like okay. I've gone down the rabbit hole. I saw something that wasn't there. It's because I watched like YouTube analysis of Stanley Kubrick movies, and Spielberg obviously being a very good friend of Stanley Kubrick. Yep. You know, there's lots of things in these movies that they make, and it's coded when they make the movies, where they're like, we're going to do this because it will say this narratively. But we won't, you know, it's not like we won't tell anyone. It's just no one ever thinks to mention it. And a lot of people out there, and I mean a lot of people out there, will just write off movies. They'll just be like, oh yeah, no, that's just this rubbish. And they just won't even think about it again. Whereas obviously being Jurassic obsessed helps. But like I've watched Dominion more times than I can count. And every time I watch it, I spot something new. And I'm like, that has to have some sort of meaning behind it. It has to. Why else would they do it? Like it can't just be frivolous. So like I said, with the Giga breathing fire, I was like, oh, that's definitely George and the Dragon. You know, with Ian with the spear, he literally looks like the George and the Dragon iconography. When you look at all that on tapestries and stuff, is exactly the same. They're always like spearing the dragon in the mouth as well in these old drawings, and that's exactly what he does. So I'm like, okay, that's George and the Dragon. That's obvious. That's a really obvious one. And then I'm like, but how deep does that go? Like the dragon. And I know Colin does like this sort of stuff, because if you watch Fallen Kingdom and just how insanely rich that film is when it comes to its reversal of the biblical stories of Genesis, it's like, it's mad. And it's like, they do their research. They genuinely do. But anyway, I'll stop my rant there.
So the film came out, and it did have a bit of a backlash in terms of the fans, potentially, you know, critics weren't up on it either. Are there any reasons why you think that would be?
Do you think if it wasn't for COVID, do you think the studio would have gambled a little bit more on the extended cut? And therefore, the general consensus around the extended cut is it's a much better film. And as you said, it makes a lot more sense. Do you think that would have been much better received critically, possibly financially, and we could have been looking at a different outcome, a different Jurassic Park 7, basically?
Yeah. I think COVID has a huge part to play in this, and that's the reason why Dominion's often quoted as being the most expensive film, you know, ever made, and it's because it was the first out of the gates for COVID when it came back into production. And I think a lot of the filming for it would have changed if it hadn't have had to deal with COVID. Like, I wonder whether more on location stuff would have happened between people, particularly towards the end and the Giga scenes and all of that. It feels quite close and quite tight. And you don't know quite how close people are actually allowed to stand in certain. It feels a little bit manufactured, the distances. I don't know. I think it would have been a very different feel and sense of the film had it not had to deal with the actual production of COVID.
I will say, you know, like Jurassic Park is known for its special effects. The first one, it's quintessential. That was the turning point in the entire world of digital effects. And then Jurassic has always been known for pushing the boundaries of effects. I've always thought that the greatest effect that Dominion gets across is Chris Pratt was never in Malta. He never went. And there's only like maybe one shot of him on a roof where if you look closely enough, you can be like, yeah, that's a green screen. Right. The rest of it is like on the bike. You know, they're on sets and stuff when they're in the boathouse and stuff. But I genuinely think that's one of the greatest effects in the movie going, is the fact that he's not there, but they convince you completely that he is there.
Yeah.
And that, and they sell it. So in that regards, I think COVID didn't have an effect on them in that specific example. Yeah.
What do you think the lasting legacy of this film? Do you think you want to see stories picked up from Dominion laid down?
I've written one, but I can't say. I've written one that I really want to tell one day.
Nice.
Yeah. I think there's a lot they could have done with what they've set up.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in what Rebirth's going to do. I'm very interested in what Rebirth's doing, knowing that Coep spent several weeks helping to write Dominion's script.
Yes.
Really makes me go, okay, well then what did he, because he knew, because he was writing Rebirth sort of around the same time. He started penning ideas for it. So they do work in tandem. They should hopefully work in tandem in setting up. Because obviously Jurassic World Rebirth is called Jurassic World Rebirth. So I'm guessing the dinosaurs being global aren't all contained.
Mm-hmm.
There's still going to be some things out there. They're not just going to completely kill off all global dinosaurs and be like, no, they're only on this one island again. That would be ridiculous. So if they do that, then oh my god, what are you doing? They can do anything with this series. They could always have a dinosaur crop up anywhere.
Yeah.
It's just whether there's a taste for it. I always felt that they could actually genre hop, which is something I was kind of hoping they were going to do, as in the Malta sequence feels like a sort of Jason Bourne Mission Impossible type movie, but it's like in a Jurassic wrapping. I kind of felt like they could have had other movies like that where they take a genre, like the End of Fallen Kingdom is like a horror film set in a haunted house, classic Universal horror, but it's wrapped in Jurassic. It's like, keep doing that.
I think, wasn't that his kind of plan before he came back, Colin, was to kind of hand over the keys to different styles of director, because he said, if he'd been doing Star Wars, then who knows who would have been ended up doing Dominion. Maybe somebody with more of that kind of action sensibility. I don't know.
Let's have let's have a horse racing movie, like a
Seabiscuit.
But instead of Seabiscuit, but instead of horses, it's Parasol Office or something, Or I don't know, that one's a bit stupid, but maybe like Twister. Okay, you got the movie Twister. They're chasing tornadoes. Well, what if it's not tornadoes they're chasing? What if it's like you got this ragtag group of people who are close knit friends who've been working together years? They've got all these custom trucks that they drive around. And they go, right, we've had a dinosaur sighting over here. Let's go tag it and get our research or whatever they're doing, or document it. Maybe they're a documentary too. And that's what they do. And it's like a road movie. So you have a literal road movie where they're driving on the road, stopping at truck stops and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, that sort of thing is what I'm hoping we'd see more of. And it can still happen.
Yeah.
Could still happen.
Yeah, I don't think. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think Universal is quite ready to disregard the last three films that grossed like $4 billion a few years ago. Yeah. And that trilogy is still a massive marketing machine. With Blue and all of that, they're still introducing them in the theme parks and that around the world. So Jurassic World, the trilogy there is here to stay for the time being, hopefully. But
I think that's maybe what Colin did the most, was manage to resurrect a series that was dormant, couldn't move at all, and came in with such energy and just confidence, I think, and guts, and just went, look, I can turn this into something that will last. And I think that's probably what he's managed to do, is actually those three films, if he hadn't have done them in the way, and they didn't, critics can say, fans and everybody can say what they like, but, those films, he managed to change a brand from Jurassic Park into Jurassic World and created something that now I can't see stopping. The fact that we were just a few years after Dominion, we're getting a seventh film, it's astonishing to think that what he set up in those three films has now led this impetus. We've got the TV shows, the Chaos Theory on Netflix, which is slowly getting more and more money each season, it seems, to bring in bigger guest stars, more money to spend on it. And you don't know where that whole thing is going to go, the relationship with Netflix and DreamWorks. Will we have a live action TV show at some point?
I don't know. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of TV shows, so I'm like, it'd have to be really good to get me involved.
Yeah. I'm thinking of kind of a Monarch sort of style.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy Monarch.
Oh, okay. I won't bring that up.
Like, it had its moments where I was like, this could be really good, but I hate filler episodes where they just natter on and nothing really happens. And you're like, this is what goes back to my parts 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Like, I like my start, middle, and end. Just a movie will do. But no, they could, and I mean, they could do a live action show, and if they did, then I hope they do a really good one.
Mm-hmm.
A mini series would probably be better, like a 5-episode mini series, like Chernobyl. That show was phenomenal, and it was only 5 episodes long. You're like, do something like that. That'd be good.
Yeah, I think like a live action series, you're at a real risk of getting franchise fatigue really quick. Like I know a lot of people feel that with the Star Wars ones. So.
Yeah,
and getting lost in the weeds because there's like obviously Jurassic has a lot of lore and all that sort of stuff, and TV shows can really mess with it. Just going back to your like the legacy of Jurassic World Dominion, like where do you think it's going to go? I this is obviously wishful thinking as well as it's like a hope of mine. I hope that over the years people will go back to it and watch it, and the further away they get from their hang-ups they had with it and the emotions they had attached to watching it for the first time, I hope that they like that dissipates and when they can watch it with fresh eyes and be like, okay, I'm going to take it on its own sort of terms and see what it has to say, and maybe open up to what the storyline was trying to go for. Because I know one of the big things that I think people got hung up on was obviously Fallen Kingdom was setting up dinosaurs being global.
Yeah.
And obviously Dominion comes along with its locusts. And that I think threw a lot of people, and they were like, I thought this was going to be about dinosaurs being global, not these genetically engineered bugs. And for me, I knew about the bugs right from the beginning, so I was like, I really enjoyed the sort of Crichton-esque feeling of those of that storyline, and obviously the Andromeda strain, you know, going into this circular building with these white things, and Alan and Ellie in these biohazard suits and stuff. I was like,
Giacchino even lifts some stuff from the score for that as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, that's exactly what I love. So for me, I'm already biased. However, you know, I think obviously we did the marketing for Dino Tracker, and we had people seeing dinosaurs around the world. So we had a part to play, very big part to play in setting people up for, hey, this is what the story is going to focus around. Although the locusts were teased on our website, where we'll say that. But I think once people get away from that, like the ripples of that effect die down a little bit, and they can go into the film, especially after Rebirth. Maybe Rebirth will give them, because that's specifically about the dinosaurs. We've got to get their DNA, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know, maybe they'll go back to Dominion and watch it with a new set of like expectations.
Yeah.
I think that will help a lot. I know Fallen Kingdom, it's helping already. People are going back to that and being a bit like, you know, that's not as bad as I remember it being.
No.
So yeah, that's what I hope anyway. If not, I love it and I don't care.
Nice. Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you both so much for joining me today. It's been real fun talking about Dominion. Everybody go out and watch it and think about those dragons sitting on their gold. I was wondering where people can find you online, if indeed you want them to.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Pterodome3K and Pterodome3000 on YouTube. I'm trying to get, because I've got a new job now, so I'm trying to get like time to do more YouTube videos. I'm doing like Jurassic Facts shorts, so go over there, learn some things about the franchise you might not know.
Yeah, myself, Twitter, BamSam_MD, and Instagram, Sam Phillips 9985. Mostly just me running, but I'll post some Jurassic stuff every now and again.
Cool. Well, again, thank you both very much, and I can't wait to hear your thoughts when Rebirth eventually comes out. It's not long now.
Thanks, Roland.
My huge thanks to both Jack and Sam for that conversation and hearing all of their stories from working with Colin, seeing Dominion early, and their thoughts. And I think after that conversation, and after a few other things that I've listened to, my opinion of Dominion now, after doing all of these episodes, has changed for the better. I think the final film still feels compromised, and it feels like it doesn't take its time enough to allow me to see all of the things that Jack was talking about. They're there, but I wanted to explicitly feel them myself. I don't think the film hits in the emotional way that I wanted it to. And it might take a couple more years for me to get there. I can't quite believe it, but we're at the end. I set out at the beginning of February to put something together to really honour the film series that I have loved the most. And I hope these 12 episodes, this whistle-stop tour of the last 32 years in Jurassic history, has been interesting for you. And I hope that you've learnt some new things along the way. For me, I've met some amazing people, had some incredible conversations, and it's a joy that when this Road to Rebirth season is done, I'm hopeful that those conversations will continue. I've still got a few more episodes to release. I've interviewed a couple more people, but I'm not going to tell you who they are yet. Just have to wait and see. As always, if you've enjoyed this series, please go on to Apple Podcasts and review this podcast. Give us a 5-star rating. It really does help this show find the Jurassic fans out there. And also follow me on Instagram at Road to Rebirth Pod. But until next time, I'll just say thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.